In my last video, I showed you how to sculpt in ZBrush, all in real time showing how to use the tools and brushes. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I create a character from start to finish in 5 steps. Hey, I'm Follygon, a professional digital sculptor, and if you're new around here, click that subscribe button. And if you're interested in learning more about digital sculpting, check out gumroad.com/Follygon, where you can find all sorts of courses, brushes, and a bunch of other free downloads. Sculpting characters is not easy. It takes a lot of patience and practice, but I believe that anyone can create art. The only difference between someone that is a master and someone that is just getting started is time. When I started sculpting, I had no clue what I was doing. I started on this very tablet. It's a Wacom bamboo tablet. They don't even make these things anymore, but they make a lot of better and frankly cheaper tablets now. I'll link a couple of those down in the description, some that I recommend. Now I use this 24-inch Cintiq, which allows me to sculpt directly on my screen. I of course love this tablet to death, but as we know, it's not the tablet that makes the art. Check out my video where I sculpted Sailor Moon using literally the cheapest and smallest tablet that I could find. It really cramped my hand a ton, but it was still a lot of fun to do. One of the questions I am inevitably asked in every single video is, what software do you use? I can put it in the title, I can say it in the video. I'm going to say it in 5 seconds and I will still get that question. The software is ZBrush, and it's the industry standard for digital sculpting. At its core, ZBrush is a program that lets you manipulate polygons. Where ZBrush differs from many other polygon modeling softwares is that it allows you to manipulate literally millions and millions of polygons, working with tools that simulate real sculpting, and tools that let you do things that you could never do in a traditional medium. ZBrush is an amazing piece of software, but like a tablet, it's just a tool, and it takes a lot of time to become proficient in it. Now that you know what tools I use, we can talk about sculpting. So where do I start when sculpting a new character? Well, typically I like to start from scratch if it's a personal piece. I get the most practice and enjoyment from creating characters from nothing. It's such an awesome feeling to see your character slowly take shape as you push and pull your forms around. What I focus on in the early stages of what I like to call blockout is the main shape of my character. I don't focus on anything that doesn't affect the silhouette. So no textures, no details, that will all come much further down the road. I tend to keep things as separate subtools during this stage, as I find that they are easier to manipulate when they are split up. But once you have the larger shapes figured out, you need to start combining your parts. This early stage of sculpting is the most difficult and important because it is the foundation of everything you build moving forward. If you sculpt an amazing ear and you place it on a junky head, well, your amazing ear doesn't really matter all that much anymore, right? Similarly, your primary forms need to be great before moving on to sculpt other shapes on top of that. This is the area that I see people struggle with the most, and honestly, there's no really easy way to learn this. But if you want some exercises that are guaranteed to give you some results, check out a recent tweet that I made where I give some thoughts on this topic. I'll share a link to that tweet down in the description for you guys. After I block out a character, I move on to refinement. This is when I take everything that was working really well in the first step and push it to be even better. And then I throw out and try to fix everything that isn't working. During this stage, I start getting secondary forms on my character as well. This would be all the stuff that we left out that wasn't affecting the silhouette or wasn't important enough to deserve our attention during the blockout. I'll start adding simple color to my character, as that is extremely helpful for seeing proportions and for starting to make your character feel more alive. These don't have to be highly detailed textures at this stage, just a solid color is absolutely fine. I also start working on facial features a bit more at this stage, laying the foundation for the head moving forward. Faces take a lot of work to get looking good, and I typically make multiple passes on them before I get to a point where I'm happy. Either way, I spend a lot of time refining my character to get to a place where I am ready to move forward. Before I really start polishing my character to push it to be as good as possible, I will pose my character. Depending on what I'm creating, I will sometimes start a character in pose from the very beginning. I decide this based on how complicated the pose is, and how much it affects things like the anatomy of the character, the clothing, hair, or other accessories. Polish is the stage where I start adding in fine details, little things that help to punch up your character into that final stage of completion. On this character, I needed to add things like the bats on her pants, as well as many other details, least of all including her hair. Details are always a lot of fun because they aren't really that difficult to do, they just take a lot of time. Most of the hard work has already been done during the earlier stages in Blockout and refinement. Because this feels like the finish line, I often see people rush here as quick as possible. A thing to keep in mind though is that each stage of Blockout, refinement, and polish, each one of those builds on top of each other. So if you're here at polish and you're trying to fix some stuff that you messed up in Blockout and refinement, no amount of details or anything like that is going to help you. So you're gonna have to take a step back and correct that stuff before you can move forward. When I have these issues, I take a step back to find where my problem is and focus on making the large changes necessary to bring that part of my character to the same level as the rest of my figure. By this point, you have most likely been looking at your character for a while as it has developed over time. This makes it very difficult to notice mistakes or things that look off and may be obvious to other people. Now, if you can, I recommend getting some critique from someone that you trust, which isn't always possible, so I will show you a trick that I use to critique my own work. I begin by taking screenshots of my character from as many angles as I can. Then I place them all in Photoshop. Next, I flip my canvas horizontally, and then, the real kicker, I take a break. Then I come back a little bit later and pretend like I'm a client that is meant to critique this work from someone else. I grab a red pen and start marking up the character, noting any errors, anything weird, or other changes I'd like to have made. After that, I hop back to sculpting and begin making those changes right away. I do this as many times as I can until I can't see anything else that's wrong, or I get tired. Much like sculpting, this is definitely something that takes some practice. Ah yes, presentation, the part of the video that so many skip to check out those final renders of the character. Really, I don't mind, I appreciate you checking out my work all the same. Once I am finished sculpting my character, I need to present it. It may look pretty good when it's just here in ZBrush, and honestly I kinda prefer to see sculpts without all the fancy stuff on them, but we can make this look a lot better by rendering the character. This is when we start simulating different materials like skin, clothing, etc., and most importantly, light our character. Lighting is something that can make or break your character. I typically use a simple 3-point lighting setup. Having one main light that illuminates the figure, a secondary light that helps fill in some of the form, and a backlight that helps to separate the edge of the character from the background. It's a very simple lighting setup, but there's a lot of room for experimentation. I will also typically do some very small touch-ups in Photoshop to edit things like my levels, contrast, and colors. I love this part of the process because I can finally sigh with relief that I am finished and immediately move on to the next project. I'm only kidding, of course, but I do love rendering my characters. And I'm really happy with how this one came out. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching until the end. You can download some stuff like my brushes and materials at the link down below in the description. Check it out, as well as click that subscribe button if you are brand new around here. Let me know down in the comments if this video was useful for you. I really love hearing from you guys. And with that, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.